disappointing because I can't imagine any police chief across the country that wants a group of armed people who have not been trained in all the things that officers are trained in, haven't been through any screening. You don't know them. They don't have some of the prerequisite skills for law enforcement. Now, I'll give you some of them are retired folks from the military and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, Thinbad, that young man was not a police officer. He was a young kid whose mind and body are not mature. And now he's walking around with an AR-15 wanting to play policeman.
Right.
That's bullshit.
Right.
You know, I mean,
in no certain terms. You're right.
Right. I mean, that officers who make mistakes have gone through a very extensive and expensive background and training process.
Mm-hmm.
Now you're talking about a 17-year-old child,
right,
with an AR-15 that thinks he has the capacity to be a part of quelling a disturbance. Second thing, you know, the last time I checked, Thinbad, you can't deploy deadly force to protect a liquor store. Here's what I'm saying. Now, if someone breaks into your liquor store and they are threatening that owner, you know, that we're going to rob it, shut up, give me the money, that's a different story. But just because somebody is breaking into a store that, oh, by the way, is probably insured, all right, I'm not making light of this. You're talking about material things, you know, whatever it is, televisions, liquor, whatever that situation is, those items are material and can be replaced. And 30 guys breaking into a liquor store to get 40 ounces is not a threat on your life. You know, and they're talking about we're here to protect property. The property doesn't need protection from you. You know, it now, don't get me wrong. There's no excuse for anyone to burn up anybody's stuff or to break into anybody's store. That is completely and totally unacceptable.
Right.
But conversely, you can't have folks out here thinking that I'm going to just be some type of posse and help to maintain order. You're not trained for it. You're not authorized for it. You know what I mean? And in this kid's case, you got two innocent people that are dead now because you've got a young man that was walking around with an AR-15 he should not have been in possession of according to the law. Right. You know, was not trained in any type of nothing. The double negative there, you know, as far as law enforcement. And now look at the consequences of a high-powered rifle in the hands of an immature mind.
Right.
You know, now I know he was, you know, a police wannabe and he loved the police and all that kind of stuff. I get all that. But still, before you wear the badge and the gun, they go through a very extensive process to make sure you can make better decisions than what that young man made there.
Oh, but you know, that's the environment that he grew up in, clearly. You know, I just didn't even think that way at 17 because there were certain things that you just weren't tolerated or you weren't thought of. So, you know,
well, I can tell you, Thinbad, you get a lot of wannabe cops that walk through the door of every police agency to take the test every day. You have that kid that grew up on CSI Miami, CSI Landover, CSI, whatever the hell it is. Yeah. And always wanted to be the police. You know, I watched all the, you know, Bad Boys 3, Bad Boys 50, you know, they want to be the police. But when they get in there and you start digging into their background and their psychological makeup, it's like, oh no, we don't want to give this guy or give this girl a gun and a badge and that kind of authority.
Right.
Absolutely not. And, or you get him in the academy. It's like, oh no, this guy makes terrible decisions.
Now here's the mindset. There's a Washington Post article. Authorities charge Kyle Rittenhouse with 2 counts of homicide, 1 count of attempted homicide. Demonstrators have hailed the victims as heroes who died trying to disarm a vigilante who was targeting them. But Rittenhouse's legal defense team, composed of lawyers known for backing conservative cause celebs, have said his actions were justified because he feared for his life and shot in self-defense. Many of the on the political right are saluting the armed teen for rushing into a city beset by vandalism and unrest. The competing narratives are playing out in news coverage, on social media, and in city streets, highlighting the extent of Americans' political divide and growing severity of the nation's culture war. Because this is like a whole new civil war, really, is what's going down.
Sure it is. But at the end...
Now that Rittenhouse has been charged with illegally carrying a gun because of his aid.
That's correct.
Back the Blue protesters in Kenosha on Sunday applauded him for stepping in where they say city leaders were falling short. I'm sad that a 17-year-old felt that he needed to come out here and protect us, said Kenosha resident Tamara Weber, who was 51. A GoFundMe campaign for protester Gage, what's his name? Grosskreutz, I guess, who was wounded in the encounter with Rittenhouse, has raised more than $43,000 for his medical bills, $43,000 for his medical bills, and another has raised nearly $150,000 for Anthony Huber, who was killed. The same site removed a fundraiser, thank goodness, for Rittenhouse last week, but a Christian crowd-raising site has raised nearly $250,000 for Rittenhouse's legal fees from donors who call him, quote, courageous and, quote, a patriot.
Well, and you know what, Thin Bad, when
I'm moving somewhere else.
I'm not even getting into this patriotic discussion because there's a couple of different versions of patriotism. And I've already told you that, you know, it's kind of old when people are questioning your patriotism. When you're looking at a group of a community that has fought for the country since the Revolutionary War, in every war, members of the African American community have fought for the country. I can remember very fondly of looking at my dad's uniforms from when he was in the Korean conflict, but hearing the stories about coming home to America after serving the country and not being able to buy a hamburger, and he's still in his uniform. But yet that young man that was told in the uniform of the United States that he can't buy a hamburger, he encouraged all the members of his family, his brother, all of my father's brothers who grew up in North Carolina in the 20s and 30s, fought for the country. All of my mother's brothers who grew up in North Carolina in the 20s and 30s. And you know what that was all about? Fought for the country and encouraged others to do so. So please don't tell me about patriotism. I'm just so past that. You know, it's a shame that there is no recognition that patriotism also includes when you see things wrong, that we're a country that allows you to have the opportunity to discuss it and try to fix it. You know, I thought that's the reason that they started the United States, you know, and it, you know, somewhere along the line, you know, that message is being lost, that patriotism only belongs to one group of people. It belongs to everybody. You know, I'm no more patriotic than you, than that guy down the street is more patriotic than the guy that lives 2 blocks over. You know, in my opinion, as long as you're not out here advocating the overthrow of the United States government, you are a patriot.
Right.
You know, and when you start denouncing your U.S. citizenship and and doing things to, that are subversive and that will, tear this country down, let's have a conversation. But folks who are exercising their right, and it seems like certain parts of the amendment of the Bill of Rights are more important than others.
Right. So
it's okay for me to carry an AR-15, but it's not okay for me to protest. Now, for example, you might not agree with flag burning. I don't agree with flag burning, but the Supreme Court of the United States said that's protected speech under the First Amendment. So, it's just amazing that the certain parts of the Bill of Rights are more important than other parts of the Bill of Rights, and that this community has more patriotism than this community. That's crazy.
Yeah, the whole thing is crazy. I mean, and Wisconsin, unlike some of the other states, does not have a stand your ground law. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. If he tries to go holler that he was trying to protect. I mean, who was trying to protect who? Who was in fear of their life? He didn't seem to be in fear of his life as he was running down the street until he fell. And then he's aimed his gun. I mean, the people who are dead were in fear of their life. They didn't have a gun.
Sure.
And anything they didn't. If they had, people would have pulled it out and probably shot. I don't know.
My thing, Wendell, is that the police officials who were there would ask for the assistance that they need. That's why every police agency in the country has memorandums of agreement, MOUs, all kinds of other things. So if we get to this point, then we're going to activate this agreement, whether it means, like in Maryland. So when Baltimore City had that riot, they had officers from Montgomery County, Prince George's County, the National Guard. They had, because that was the contingent that the Baltimore police chief used. And so they didn't call for people to come, bring your guns and come on down and help us put this riot down. They called other professionals who are trained, have the equipment, have the demeanor, and have all the appropriate support to get this thing together. And here's the other misnomer. I don't know any community in the country where people are like, yeah, we really want people to come into our community and once they get upset about their cause, just start burning down our pharmacies and tearing up our homes. No community wants that. No community wants that. I mean, when you look at the Baltimore riots, you saw those citizens saying, why the hell would you do this? Now we don't have a place to go get our pharmacy stuff. I'm 80 years old. I can't go all the way across town, So, to just give that impression that, again, certain communities do not care about the state of their situation is just wrong.
It's all, I mean, I don't know. It's just a terrible situation. All the way around. The fact that we have no leadership that's willing to address it. The leadership in DC just looks to fan the flames of dissent and divisiveness, and it's a crazy time. It's a crazy time, and in those times, I know we're coming up near the end of the hour, but it just makes some of the losses that we've had in this period of time, that much greater. Just when you think about how crazy the world is, and you can look to certain people to like, yep, I feel better. I feel a little better about the world because this person is here, or this person is trying to shine their light. And then to have the light, the bright shining light of Chadwick Boseman to be dimmed.
That's right.
It just added more insult to injury. And then John Thompson, great mentor and coach, of course. But what coach is not also what coach